Good evening. Good evening. Good night, as the fella says. It's dark, and so the night's drawn in. Uh, and Shakespeare said, uh, "Wrap up the cares of the day," or something more than that. Mm. We won't go into the Shakespearean end of it. The Catholic conference in the Lucan Hotel uh, on Saturday the 23rd yesterday week, and it was full house, very well attended, and there was great speakers. The first man that spoke was Pat Kenny. He's a lecturer, not the other Pat Kenny. Pat Kenny, a lecturer, and a great speaker, and spoke about Father Willie Doyle going on to be beatified. He was in the First World War. He great bravery, going to help and the wounded. There was no man's land, and bring them back and give them the last rites. Sure, honest to goodness, it was a terrible time. But he gave a good talk about it. But I heard some of it before in another situation, and I know a fair bit about Father Woody Doyle, and he's gone on for that, and he's Pat Kenny, this this professor or lecturer. He's he's the president of the Father Willie Doyle Association for Sainthood, and I'm sure it'll go ahead. He's a good man. Now, and then Mattie McGrath was next. And we had a break, and I spoke to Mattie before he went on, or when he was coming in, and I gave him my card for the Christian TV Ireland project, and he gave me his card, and I said I'd like to interview him, which I will in due course, with my friend that does these interviews, and so we hope to do that, and with a few more pro-life TDs, and maybe just ask somebody else that's not pro-life, see where they're coming from, and what is the reason for such a thing, and what that type of thing. We have to try and find out these things. But Mattie gave a great speech. He's from his father, I think, was a TD as well, and he was a very good man. And so he spoke very eloquently in many ways, because he has the inside seat and he's in the tower for a nice few years. And I'm delighted to see he's elected all the time. As I say, he's pro-life and not afraid to speak out. But I did mention to him that I taught the pro-life TDs, and Michael Collins from Skull, which is an independent TD, hopes that maybe 25 of them can come under a broad umbrella and contest seats. And I suggested that perhaps maybe 50 at least, and maybe one in every constituency. But we have one for Meath West that I'm in, and that's Father Tobin. He's pro-life, so he'll be getting my vote, and nobody else, only him. He's pro-life. And if there was another pro-life, they'd get number 2. But in any event, that they'll get together, and Mattie said they're a bit too independent. It's hard to pin them down. But I said, well, the pro-life, that should be the unifying force. They might have other agendas and so on and so forth, but I think that would give people a choice to vote for them, because we don't have much of a choice. I certainly wouldn't vote for anyone that's supported the killing of the innocents and all the rest of it. So anyway, Mattie, he mentioned a lot of stuff that you wouldn't know too much about, the fella says. And He said, like, for example, there's NGOs. Now, they're something to do with pressure groups. And I think they're in possession of a couple of million euros or billion or some that big amount. And they're all more or less anti-Catholic. And they're supported by the government. And this dreadful person, Soros, in America, that's a pro-abortion monster and putting money into all sorts of evil stuff. And yet he come from Hungary, which was a good Catholic country, so whatever happened to him, he made his money whatever way he made it, but he's quite an evil man in many people's books, and he even looks it. So Mattie mentioned about them NGOs, and they're supported by the government, and they're not independent in the full sense of the word. There's a women's council, for example, and they're pro-abortion on this, and women of all people shouldn't be suffering from that depravity. They should respect life. They have the great gift of bringing life into the world. We wouldn't be here only for our mothers. So any mother that doesn't bring her baby into the world is a lot to answer for. And it's a very dangerous thing to do. And millions have been killed all over the world. And in China, I think 300 million, especially girls. They're absolutely depraved in that country. You couldn't have anything to do with them. They'll do any arrangement with them in a fit. They're dealing with the evil one. We keep well away from them. So he mentioned that, and he mentioned that the farmers are under constant attack by this government and these NGOs. What's wrong with them? What for the farmers? We'd starve to death. There's other people in the country dying of starvation because they're not able to produce food or whatever. There's conflicts going on and all the rest of it. So we live in a very peculiar age, and there'll be something to be paid for all that. But he mentioned that, and then he mentioned the evil that took place there in the debate years ago when Sean Gallagher, an independent candidate for the presidential election, was streets ahead of any of the rest of them. And he had no right to appear in these programmes. He signed his death warrant because lies was told when he was on with other ones, Martin McGuinness and other ones, and they attacked him and somebody in the audience and phone calls. It was all false. But the harm was done because there's an agenda, and Pat Kenny was the individual on that occasion, and he never seemed to have to pay a price for it. He should have been sacked for ineptitude and skullduggery. But there you are. He did quite evil that time, and there was no proof. But when the damage is done, the truth then takes a runs for it was all lies, as it turned out. But they were making allegations against him, and he had no right to appear on it because he was streets ahead, and they could say what they like behind his back. But they shouldn't be allowed to do that. Anyway, that was RTE, so what can you expect from the like of that organisation? They're not pro-Catholic, I can tell you. Neither are the media, except of course the Catholic papers. Christian TV, when it gets going, will be singing a good hymn for our Catholic faith, and we'll be focusing on positive stuff. And all the rest will interview those people, the like of Mattie McGrath, people of that calibre. And we might interview another, when it gets going, interview another one that's not pro-life to see what they're made of. Because, but then they'll probably refuse and won't answer straightforward questions. No, and of course the fellow that won it was President Higgins, and he's pro-abortion. He's not pro-life. He shouldn't have an opinion. His opinion should be above that sort of thing. And he seems to be not a practicing Catholic. No. So who else was there? It's attack on the education. If schools are getting any money from this government, and then they want to put agendas onto them and destroy the innocence of young children, teaching them all sorts of nonsense. There's no business them interfering with their innocence. It's up to their parents and Catholics to teach religion, and likewise in the Church of Ireland or Protestant schools for them to teach what they believe in. But certainly this crowd in this government should keep their snoot out of it. They paid the teachers, and it wasn't for the nuns and Christian Brothers and Presentation Brothers, Marist Brothers, and all the other Delisade Brothers. A lot of people would have never had an education. They get no thanks for it, but certainly they will from the Christian TV Ireland. Oh yes, they will. So he covered a lot of ground, and the tax on the education. He mentioned Mary McGrath College in Limerick. They're getting pressure from the weirdos that want to destroy the ethos of the Catholic education. And we'll speak now tomorrow. I'll speak tomorrow, maybe another nighttime video about another one. That's something coming up. And he also mentioned too that this government seems to be disregarding the great fight for freedom that we had in with the Patriots that was all executed by the British. That's what they normally do, is kill people. But because of what they did with the Patriots, it swung people onto their side. So there was the war for the independence. So he mentioned that, and he mentioned that, for example, in Cambodia, there was a fellow called Pol Pot, and he ordered the communist murderer. He ordered that nothing that happened before 1975 was didn't count. It was 75 onwards, and he destroyed that country, and millions were murdered by that tyrant until he was ousted. But it was just that the history that we have is a good history. We have a history of our brothers and sisters being persecuted in the penal times and mass rocks and all the rest of it. And we don't want any government that behaves the way this government behaves, interfering with farmers and nearly denying our past and our Catholic heritage. Christian TV Ireland will be speaking very powerfully about that. And but not arguing as such, but just preaching it and practicing it, and interviewing our brothers and sisters that are falling on hard times, people that sleeping on the street and seem to have lost hope. We'll be talking to them, see what's disturbing them, what happened, and helping them. Yeah, and the same as others are helping them to try and get off their addictions, but understand where they're coming from, and explain to them that God loves them, and our Blessed Mother is their mother, and loves them as well. Give them hope. That's the main thing. Hope. And the great gifts of the Catholic faith. Many of them would have been Catholics. And we'll try and bring back all our lapsed Catholics as well. They still have the faith, because they go to funerals. They respect the dead. And that's always a great sign. But they need to be helped because these are things. Anyways, we're just talking about Mattie. He said so much that it was just lovely to hear it. And yeah, so that's it. I'll just leave it at that now. That's Mattie. I only covered a bit of the ground that he did because he covered a lot. But I hope I just referred to some of the things that Mattie spoke about. He's a great voice in the doll for the pro-life cause. Yeah, but he doesn't get the time, and the other crowd are so off the rails from the point of view of the practice of the Catholic faith. Yeah. Bye now.